You've been lied to. Everything you know about luxury brands, it's a scam. What if I told you that Payless, a bankrupt company, exposed the fraud behind the luxury industry? For years, we've been paying insane markups for overpriced shoes, and no one even noticed. But Payless didn't just sell us cheap shoes. They pulled off the ultimate prank. They convinced fashion influencers to spend $600 on shoes that usually cost $20. Sounds impossible, right? This is the story of how Payless took down the luxury market and showed us the truth about branding, price tags, and consumer manipulation. Why do we keep falling for these scams? This is Scamnomics. The story starts like every retail brand's nightmare. Payless Shoe Source, once a leader in budget-friendly footwear, was on the brink of collapse, struggling to stay relevant. They had tried everything to boost sales, rebranding, new marketing strategies, but nothing worked. So they decided to try something bold. In 2018, Payless launched a fake luxury brand. They called it Payless, and it would be the ultimate test of branding. They opened a pop-up store in Los Angeles, right in the middle of a high-end mall. Everything about the store screamed luxury. Gold mannequins, sleek lighting, high-end design. Even the shoes? They were Payless shoes, just marked up with $600 price tags. They invited fashion influencers, people who had the power to make or break a trend. The plan was simple: create an illusion of luxury and see if these influencers would buy it. They walked into Payless, complimenting the shoes, admiring the materials, and raving about the design. Some even paid for the shoes. A few hours later, the truth was revealed. The influencers were shocked. They had just paid hundreds of dollars for $20 shoes. It was more than just a prank. It was a statement. Payless had proven that branding could turn cheap into luxury. The moment the influencers realized they'd been duped, everything they thought they knew about luxury brands was shattered. The Payless store wasn't real. It was all part of Payless's plan to prove a point. Branding matters more than the product itself. For years, luxury brands had convinced us that price equals quality. But Payless flipped the script. How? They created the illusion of high-end fashion and charged the same prices as the biggest luxury names. But the shoes? They were no different than the $20 shoes Payless had been selling for years. The influencers? They didn't care. They praised the shoes as if they were high-quality, handmade designer products. Even after the reveal, many still couldn't believe the shoes were from Payless. It wasn't just about shoes, though. It was about perception. How can branding manipulate our judgment so much? How can something that cost $20 be sold for $600 and still be perceived as worth it? The answer? Cultural codes. Luxury brands aren't selling products. They're selling an idea. The idea of exclusivity. The idea that owning these products makes you part of an elite group. And Payless showed that with the right image, you could sell anything, even if it was just a cheap pair of shoes. So, if Payless can sell $20 shoes for $600, what does that say about the brands we've been buying for years? Luxury brands like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and Prada have mastered the art of creating an aura of exclusivity. But the truth? They're not always the pinnacle of quality we've been led to believe. In fact, the reason luxury brands are able to charge astronomical prices is simple. They create a perception of value. It's all about status. The brand name, the logo, the store layout. These are the things that make you feel special when you purchase a luxury product. It's not just about the product itself. In fact, most of these luxury items are mass-produced. The materials, the craftsmanship, even the factories. They're not all that different from what you'd find in mass-market shoes. But the luxury market manipulates us into believing we're buying something rare, something that gives us a certain social standing. And Payless showed us that with the right marketing, any product can be perceived as luxury. This is where the real scam lies. Luxury brands aren't selling just shoes, bags, or watches. They're selling an image, a lifestyle. And they've convinced us that owning their products makes us part of an exclusive club. But Payless did what no one expected. They exposed the illusion. They proved that luxury isn't about quality. It's about what we believe it is. The luxury industry is built on one simple truth. Perception is everything. The products themselves? Often they're not as special as we're led to believe. Take a Louis Vuitton bag, for example. The materials? It's mostly canvas and leather. The same materials you'll find in a budget bag. Yet the price tag, $1,500. Why? Because Louis Vuitton isn't selling you a bag. They're selling you status. An image of exclusivity. The real cost of the bag is tied to its brand name, not the materials or the craftsmanship. This is the core strategy of the luxury industry. They make you believe that paying more means you're getting something superior, even though often the difference between a luxury item and a regular item is minimal. It's all about marketing, image, and perception. And Payless's prank exposed this. They showed us that luxury isn't necessarily about the product's quality. It's about how you perceive it. Payless took cheap shoes and turned them into high-end, desirable products just by rebranding them. This isn't a new idea. Luxury brands have been doing this for years. But now, Payless showed us how easy it is to manipulate consumer perceptions. What you're really paying for isn't the product, it's the illusion of value. Luxury goods aren't always the best quality, but they sure know how to make you believe they are. Luxury brands don't just sell products, they sell symbols. Symbols of wealth, status, and exclusivity. Take Gucci, for example. The famous green, red, green stripes? They're not just a design, they're a cultural code. A way of signaling that the person wearing Gucci is part of an exclusive group. Luxury brands carefully construct these codes. The logo, the design, the craftsmanship, to tell you something about yourself when you wear them. And this is where Payless struck. By creating the Payless store with sleek aesthetics and gold mannequins, Payless used the same cultural codes that luxury brands use. They didn't just sell shoes, they sold status. The influencers didn't just buy shoes, they bought into the illusion. It wasn't the product's quality that made it desirable. It was the cultural code that made it feel valuable. This is the power of branding. It can turn an ordinary product into something extraordinary, simply by associating it with prestige and exclusivity. This isn't just about shoes. It's about how every luxury brand uses the same trick. They're not selling you the best product. They're selling you the best perception of that product. And Payless used these exact same principles to show just how easy it is to manipulate consumer perception. So, if the luxury industry is really all about perception, what does that mean for consumers? We're not just buying products. We're buying into a narrative. This is where economics meets psychology. In economic terms, we call this price signaling. It's the idea that the price of an item tells you something about its quality, even if that's not true. Luxury brands capitalize on this psychological bias, convincing us that their high prices signal superior quality. But what's happening here is differentiation, and not in the way we think. Luxury companies charge inflated prices to create an artificial barrier to entry. They aren't just selling a product. They're selling scarcity, prestige, and exclusive access. Economists call this conspicuous consumption, the idea that consumers buy products to display their wealth and social status, not just for utility. But Payless flipped the script. They created a false market using the same economic principles. By pricing their shoes as if they were luxury items, Payless proved that perceived scarcity can create demand, even for a product that's mass-produced. It's market manipulation, plain and simple. But this isn't just about high-end goods. Even everyday products rely on branding to signal value. Take Apple, for example. They use brand loyalty and price premiums to signal to consumers that their products are worth more than the competition, even when the marginal utility, the extra satisfaction derived from using the product, is questionable. The reality is, we've all been manipulated into associating certain symbols and logos with value. Payless exposed this manipulation for what it is. They didn't just show how luxury brands get away with charging inflated prices. They showed us how easy it is for any company, big or small, to create a false narrative around their product. By using the right visual cues, wording, and environment, any brand can convince you that what you're holding in your hands is worth more than it really is. That's how Payless turned $20 shoes into $600 shoes. It wasn't the shoes that changed. It was the story they told. That's the game brands play with us every day. And Payless showed us exactly how easy it is to fall for it. When Payless revealed the truth, the influencers were shocked. They had been duped. But it wasn't just about Payless showing how easily a brand could deceive them. It was about what they exposed. The luxury brand model was a lie. Payless had taken cheap shoes, added a luxury label, and sold them for hundreds of dollars. Yet the influencers couldn't tell the difference. The shoes were mass-produced, no different from what you'd find at any Payless store. What changed? The story, the branding, the illusion of exclusivity. And once the influencers realized they had fallen for it, it wasn't just embarrassing for Payless's victims. It was a reality check for all of us. If Payless could pull off this stunt, how many of us have been manipulated by the same tactics before? But what's most interesting? Payless didn't just trick influencers. They tricked the whole luxury market. The difference between Payless and the big luxury brands? It's just the branding. The luxury market depends on us buying into a perceived value. Payless didn't just expose the lie, they shattered it. They showed that the emperor has no clothes. The luxury brands, they were just like Payless all along. And we were the ones paying for it. So what does this all mean for us, the consumers? Payless exposed a deep truth about the way we see value in products. We've been conditioned to believe that higher prices automatically equal better quality. But Payless showed us something powerful. The story behind the product is often more important than the product itself. Think about it. How many times have you bought something because the brand told you it was worth the price? How many times have you paid more for a product simply because of the logo on it? It's not about the materials, the quality, or even the craftsmanship. It's about the perception of value. Payless turned this on its head. They proved that any brand can manipulate consumer perceptions, and luxury brands have been doing this for decades. The lesson here? It's time we questioned everything we've been told about luxury and what makes something worth the money we pay for it. Instead of focusing on the price tag, we need to start asking, what's the real value of this product? Is it the materials? Or is it the illusion of exclusivity? Payless didn't just trick us into buying shoes. They showed us how brands manipulate our perceptions of worth. And now that we know the truth, what will we do with it? How will we choose to spend our money going forward? This isn't just about Payless. It's about how we as consumers allow ourselves to be manipulated by every brand in the market. So the next time you buy something, ask yourself, am I buying the illusion? Or am I buying real value? So, now that the truth is out, what do we do with it? Payless exposed how easily we can be manipulated by the stories that brands tell us. But it's up to us to decide whether we keep buying into these stories, or if we start asking the real questions. What is this really worth? In the end, the luxury market is just like any other market. It's all about perception. And the more we know, the more control we have over our own buying decisions. So next time you pick up a designer bag or high-end shoes, ask yourself, am I buying quality? Or am I buying a brand story? If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a deep dive into the world of scams, frauds, and the economics behind them. And hey, drop a comment below. What's your take on luxury branding? Are you still willing to pay for the story? This is Scamnomics, where the truth is always more valuable than the brand.